Andy and Jamie.
Hello, Scott.
Hey.
Hello, Jamie. How are you, buddy?
Andy Scott, how's it going?
Oh, doing good. Doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, another day in the salt mines. The weekend is coming, and well, it's going to be quite a Friday, I would assume. So, just ready to
Yeah, yeah,
see
yeah.
what the market throws at us tomorrow, right?
Well, yeah, it could be interesting. I don't know what to expect, but I would be surprised if we have too much of a calamity, but we'll see. Uh, uh, Once again, I like to always repeat this. It's not our job as traders to predict, and what's going to happen, but just to react to it. So always keep that in the back of your mind, guys, when you're looking at charts and studying earnings from corporations, or looking at stocks gapping up and reading the news why they're gapping up or not gapping down. It's very easy to try to make a guess on what the stock action is going to be, but that's not our job as traders. Our job is to react. So with that said, and before I talk too much and get myself in trouble, let's go through the disclaimer here. We are guys at Trade Ideas. We're content publishers. This webinar is for educational purposes only. We have a cool product here. We'd like to come on and talk about it and show you some of the cool features of our product that would allow one to capitalize in the marketplace. But once again, it's for educational purposes. If you're seeking investment advice, we would recommend going to see a licensed professional, such as a stockbroker or a RIA. So just with that in mind, guys, let's venture forward and look at our agenda for today. And we will talk about the market recap. There's not a whole lot to talk about. It's frustrating, as it is out there. That's why we like Trade Ideas so much. It's when you get a market like this, you have to find places to make money. It's very easy. Back in the day when I first started, boy, you really wanted market movement because you were always playing market movement. The stocks you played back in the day, Cisco and Intel, and they reacted to what the market was doing, and it was like a rising tide would raise all boats, and a lowering tide would. It's not the case anymore, and that's what's great about this product. It can point you in areas where there's alpha to be had, and we'll discuss some of that moving forward. Then we'll move on to the Holly recap, and there's not a whole lot today. Holly was kind of trying to tell you something today as far as the overall market. Boy, she was very quiet. We will briefly discuss that because there were only 3 alerts from Holly today, and boy, just a very quiet day. Then we're going to move on to Jamie, and he's going to do a little study on CSX today. CSX, I noticed, were popping up. It was popping up on a lot of alerts. A little head night. It was a huge gap up today on activists maybe coming to the party in CSX, and Jamie will look at some of the ways that you could have played that today. I have an interesting topic I'm going to talk about because this is a layout for more liquid stocks, and it's not just one alert, okay? This is a whole layout, and I will share this layout for those of you who want it. So it's more, I'll kind of, well, you know what, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's just dive into the market. What do you say, Jamie? So
That
let me
sounds
back
fine.
up to this real quick. All right, and the way we do that is we pull up the spiders here, and I'm sure some of you guys are already looking at this layout and saying, wow, that doesn't look like what I normally see when Andy pulls one up. It's not that far off base, but a little bit something different. All right, guys, here's the spider index. It's kind of the benchmark in which all pretty much hedge funds and mutual funds are kind of graded against, and excuse me, these things keep popping up and annoying me. So, and as you can see, guys, we have gone really nowhere this year. It's starting to kind of feel very similar to the action that we kind of saw back in, these ranges over here. And it makes you wonder, okay, are we setting up for another move higher? We talked about this last week. When you get a huge move like this, you kind of go sideways. That's actually it could be very positive, for the bulls, because typically when you make a huge run, you want to you back away, you back off and test levels. Did it one day here, but for the most part, we've been kind of holding this range up here for about a month now. We'll see what happens, but as far as the overall market, it's been pretty dead. It's pretty dead. I mean, we did sell off a little bit today. I do have a trend line, and we draw so many horizontal lines of important areas to watch. I thought today maybe I'd draw a little trend line in here, kind of zoom in on that, and you'll see kind of for about 3 months now we've been holding this trend. So if we do break this area right now, which would also be breaking about a couple of week low there below that wick, we could see a test back to this level, pretty quickly. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look around to the other important indices. You can see there the diamonds are actually showing a little more of droopiness to them there. So we got actually went to a 6 or 7 week low right there before bouncing back. So showing some weakness there. IWM, same thing. They're kind of drooping a little more. So you got the Qs actually, I think now, just the opposite of what was happening, several weeks ago. Now they're the ones that's showing leadership and showing strength. And once again, it's a market where you have, the buck being passed around. It's kind of like the baton. It's like a relay race, except one indice or market or sector, whatever it may be, will be running, and then it kind of gets tired, and then it hands the baton off to the next sector or indice or market. So it's just kind of the paradigm that we've had in this market now for several years, it seems like to me, because it just seems like equities is a place, to really get, only place to go get growth these days, and thus the baton just keeps getting passed around. If you sell off one sector, you find one that's been beaten up and start buying it. But other than that, guys, there's not a whole lot to talk about. I would, you got those levels that we marked here, and let's see what happens tomorrow. If this is going to be a big watershed event, or is it just going to be something that was kind of overhyped and everything's going to run smoothly? And let's see what happens. Of course, you don't need anything to happen for the market to move. Something can just trigger just because it's there. So. But anyway, Jamie, what's your feeling? I know you probably have a feeling about what may potentially happen. And
Well, when I'm looking at the SPY on the daily, of course, a lot of these patterns are tradable on intraday and daily. They all look kind of the same. And when I see the action that's unfolding on the daily on the SPY, that kind of tells me something. A move is imminent. Now, is the move going to be up? Is the move going to be down? Don't know. Don't really care at this point. But something's going to happen, and of course, macro events do play a role. And sometimes what we think is wrong. It's like the classic case of, hey, they blew out earnings. Okay, well, why did it just sell off 5%? Right? A lot of the times, what we think makes sense does not. So, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, the market's going to rip up after the inauguration or it's going to rip down. All that I can tell you is the footprints in the sand are telling us that a move is imminent. And will the event tomorrow be the catalyst to get things going? Maybe. It does take place before the market opens. So that's kind of the interesting thing here, is that don't know what's going to happen. Fridays are typically kind of tame, when we're talking about a normal Friday. But we all know tomorrow's not going to be a normal Friday, and we'll just have to get our popcorn and get seated, because if it does get crazy, there's gonna be plenty of good trading opportunities out there. We just don't know if they're going to be to the upside or the downside, or both. Okay. Or both.
That's true. There you go. Or both. Yeah. Kind of like a Fed day, It's like you get a both 3 or 4 times actually.
Absolutely.
But all right, so that's it for the market right now. I think what I'm gonna let do is I'm gonna let Jamie take over the screen sharing, and he's going to talk a little bit about CSX and anything else that he might want to bring to your attention. Oh yeah, he is going to go over. Yeah, I think he will touch on Holly and just show you what the trade, the strategies that were in play today, and how what little she saw and what little she did.
Okay, so you have eyes on my screen, I take it.
I do.
So just making sure my numbers are right here. We had 8 strategies. Of course, if you're paying attention, you know that we usually don't see this many short strategies make the cut. Typically, it's predominantly been longs, but today we had a little bit different of a hopper show up. And of course, I cannot even remember the last time, Andy, that me, you, or anybody else saw Holly show up with this many strategies and only produce 3 signals for the day, right? So not a whole lot of analysis to be done here today because this fits perfectly, and actually I'm happy with what I see here today because, as the market tightens up here, we're waiting for tomorrow to unfold, it's kind of like a little statistical famine right now. Those animals that we usually show up to hunt, they're just not present today. And, I have to say that I'm actually pleased with this because when the statistical advantage is not there, the statistical model should not show us anything. And today is a perfect testament to that. Of course, we were, if we take a look at the indices up here, I added a few extra columns today just so people could get an idea of what's normal and, the volumes that got put in today because over the past 10 trading days, we've seen the DIA average about 4 million shares. And of course, the Dow has been the little star as of late, when we look at all the other indices. We got the SPY up here. But, clearly, up until, of course, these things are going to flop around a little bit. For a while, the Qs were leading. But, as far as, the pristine chart here, it's definitely been the Dow kind of leading the show. Now, 3 million shares traded today when it's usually kicking out about 4. So that's about 25% lower than normal. Slightly lower on the SPY and considerably lower, 12 million versus 16 or 18 million, depending on what average you're looking at here. So overall, low volume across the board. So to see Holly only spit out 3 trades and really basically scratch or come in 8 cents down on risk off, kind of happy with that. We old traders always have the saying, if things aren't happening, keep your powder dry for the next day. Don't just trade to trade. And so seeing our statistical model do what it did today, A+. Now, having said that, those of you who are watching know what kind of day Holly turned in yesterday, right? 4.34 points. The prior day, 2 points. So leading into today, Holly's up a little over 6 points and change on 28 trades total. And of course, we can see the performance graph here since inception. So low volume day today, seeing the statistical model do what it did today, that's exactly what we want it to do. Now, let's talk about today. All day, what I hear, low volume, something will go my way, a quarter, then it rips against me, so forth and so on. So let me just go ahead and, it's Holly's day off in essence, so I'm going to go ahead and close her out today. And what we're going to take a look at is this stock, CSX. Okay. Now, if we look at the daily, we all know that there was a gap up. But, the interesting thing is, how did Jamie come to find out about CSX today? Well, I typically like to only target stocks with exceptionally high volume. So, those of you who attend on a regular basis are already familiar with the, basically, a couple of what I like to term glorified high-low tickers using 1-minute metrics, which is the smallest time frame that we look at here at Trade Ideas. But when we're trying to pinpoint volume for pattern continuations, simple. We want extremely high volume. The more, the better on the volume on a pattern continuation. Sometimes when we want to try to play a bounce, and that stock might be snuggling up to some nice support, maybe it's an S&P 500 company with no bad news, maybe it's been down 7 days in a row. Well, when the volume dries up and all of those other things fall into place, sometimes we can pick some nice bottoms, but we want volume at low levels. So CSX is a perfect example today of pinpointing the breakouts with the high volume. So what I did here, and of course you can see my chart, I've already taken the liberty of marking it up. So the first line here, and of course it depends on the type of trader that you are. There's no wrong or right way to go about this process. It's really just your own personal preference. But a lot of people have been eliminating the wicks in the opening 15 minutes and using bodies. Of course, Trade Ideas has to play by the rules because this really was the high and the low in this candle, even though we have the crazy wicks and the algorithms doing their thing. But the reason I drew this line is if you don't like using the wicks, you can use the bodies here. But as far as alert purposes go, we have to play by the rules and use the wick. So this would be the first time that I would have had an interest in finding out about CSX. Now, why is that? Well, if this was the initial high that got put in, here we have the initial low, then CSX goes range bound. It almost pops out here, but not quite. Takes a little breather, comes back up here, and pops out here. Of course, we're talking about the wick over here. So by the book, the first penetration outside of that range is this first arrow right here, as it barely pops above there. Now, as we can see, that is the 910 bar. So what I've done here is I duplicated my turbo breaks up window, and what I did is I popped in here, symbol list, I just point the window to CSX for easy illustration, and now we're going to go down here and identify all of these entries here. Okay, so this 940 bar right here, excuse me, not 940, 910. Where did it go? Okay. So the 910 bar encompasses 910 through 915 on a 5-minute chart here. So we can see turbo breaks identified right here. Excuse me. Now, if you're trying to figure out, okay, well, I can see what he's talking about here. It's breaking out of the range. Now, it's also meeting the multiplier on the 1-minute volume, which on the turbo breaks by default is 3 times normal 1-minute volume. So if we can catch it right here, it's a beautiful entry. Because typically for assessing risk on these types of plays, if I just kind of make these bars a little bit bigger, a little bit easier to see, not including the entry bar, what we do is we look back 15 minutes, 5, 10, 15, take the lowest part, which in this case would have been right down here, as a stop loss in case the thing goes against us. So we make the entry here, great jubilation, it goes straight up for us. So we all like that. Now, one of the hardest things for traders to do, especially when you're new, is if you identify a big liquid stock like this fairly early on in the market, the hardest thing to figure out typically is, well, I've got a winner here, we've got a lot of the day left. I always hear that I should add to my winners. Well, today CSX is the perfect example of that, because we have the first entry here, boom, pop a new high here, and then what do? We go range bound. So it takes a little break, pops back up, bust out again, 1140. Now, once again, the high volume was identified. 1140 bar encompasses 1140 through 1145. So right there at 1141.55, once again, new high, and indeed, really, really high on the 1-minute volume. And by the way, we're requesting 3 times normal here. And this is not just something that I came up with on the fly. It's something that I've tried all kinds of different settings here over the past decade. This tends to work the best. So the cool thing about it is we can also add that as a column. So when we're getting these reports, not only can we see the 3 times metric being satisfied, but we can see the actual value here. So on the second leg up here, as it's popping above that line, we're getting, really high hits here. 7 up to 13 and so forth and so on the second excursion. Once again, when we're talking about intraday patterns, ladies and gentlemen, it really doesn't get any more simple than what you're seeing here. We draw the horizontal line, and when the crack occurs, if it's coming through the turbo brakes, we know the volume is there, our risk is low, we put the trade on. We're in the money. It sets up again. As soon as it cracks a high, we can see the good old turbo brakes reporting again. We can make a second entry here. And then, of course, we even get a chance for a third entry. And, of course, playing by the rules, we'd have to use the wick here and not the bodies. So, once again, looking at this third excursion, 1245, and we can see right here it identifies again. And this time, it's kicking off at 18 times normal 1 minute volume, of course, running into the close. So obviously there was a big institutional buyer in CSX all day. So the earlier you can identify these guys, and the buyer's in there, when you start to see these nice little NR7 type patterns hovering under the low, then that's always a good time for a second, and in this case, even a third entry on that stock. Nice little stair-step action. No big, no big fancy chart pattern. We don't have to strain our eyes to see anything. And this also brings up a good topic with the fact that we have kept our charts study-free. So what I've just shown you, this is all you need. Now, we could throw indicators, and what I've done is I've taken a different charting platform, and I'm like, okay, this was all, we could navigate this chart from the time that this happened, and we're seeing these nice little stair steps, and we're relying on what the system is telling us. Nice simple pattern with a volume. If you have 2 of those things, and the volume is good, then we no longer have just a coin flip 50-50 chance of success, because I can show you dozens of other patterns that looked just like this today. But they would pop up, briefly set a new high, and then fall back down into the range, because they're only doing normal volume, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly below. So what I've done here, just for kicks, here's the same stock, 5-minute time frame. Now I've taken the liberty of putting 50 period moving average, a 200 period moving average. We've even got the Bollinger Bands up here. Now, okay, so prior close, today's open, really these serve no purpose. The stock still did the same thing without all of these indicators, without all of this noise that you see here. Indicators? No indicators. Just some good old-fashioned line drawing. And, this really does kind of circle back around to the whole point about being simplistic. We want our trading routines, we want our trading patterns, and our rule set to be as simple as possible, so that when the market is open, it's just about scrolling through picture after picture, which we call charts, and simply going yes or no, yes or no. Most of the times it's no. But if we're following a method like this, where number one, if you're a pattern continuation person, you should pay attention to volume. And if the volume is there, you're going to have a lot better chance of success, because most people are going about it backwards. They're so fixated on their pattern that they get so excited when they see their pattern and they can accept, a tolerable risk they'll put the trade on without even looking at the volume. They're like, well, this stock trades 1 million a day. It's liquid. I feel safe about it. Well, that's not the right way to think about it. What we should be doing most of the time for our manual trading, non-Holly oriented trading, where we're watching alert windows and top lists, doesn't it make more sense to only have stocks showing up with a really high volume? And then when you find the right picture or your right pattern and the risk is there, all you do is say yes or no. I think that if you go about it that way, you'll find that you're getting a lot more movement in your direction, not only as quickly as possible, but something that's sustained, and then you'll be, actually able to profit from once that chart is done unfolding. So I hope that makes sense. Andy, any comments about the old CSX chart today? Now, before that, in addition to, I almost forgot. Let's pretend we just made this entry and we're like, okay, well, it's starting to go up for me. Ooh, should I take my money here? Well, for expectations, what do we always do? We pull up the daily. And we're like, okay, this was the previous high. All of a sudden, whatever the news is, we're gapped up here. There's nothing holding CSX back. How long is it going to keep going up? We don't know. We have nothing over here to tell us that this could be potential resistance coming up. So the bottom line is intraday signal from this range break, no resistance up top, And of course, if you're like me and most other traders, if you piled in or scaled in to, maybe 600 shares by the time we got up here, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I'd sure hate to sell myself short. What do? We have to satisfy the greed and the fear. We take most of our position off. If we want to accept that overnight risk, we hold a little bit, but we definitely take some profits. That way we've satisfied the greed and the fear demon. And if you keep those two guys satiated and keep your plan simple and you feed the demons when they're supposed to be fed, I think that your learning curve or your trajectory in your trading career in general will be in a nice upslope.
Very good, Jamie. Very good stuff. I mean, yeah, and you're so true. When stocks are accompanied with volume, they have a tendency to hold those patterns a lot more. That's why I always tell people when you're looking for stocks hitting a 52-week high, look to see in those breakouts that they're accompanied with volume, because in a lot of cases when they're doing anemic volume or there's just no oomph behind it, you're going to get what's called a fake breakout, and they're going to go right up and come right back down. And so that's why we like to say around here, volume doesn't lie, and patterns will stay true to form if they're accompanied with big volume. And CSX was coming through like so many of my alerts today. There was really nothing negative about that obviously the chart, but yeah, it's what we call double, triple confirmation when you see it coming through, all the alerts, Jamie, and that was a good topic of discussion today.
Yeah, especially on a day where, the general consensus was, there wasn't a whole lot out there.
Mm-hmm.
If I pulled up turbo brakes and we started looking at symbols here, there were lots of very tradable patterns. Here's the same pattern again, this ARNC, which, when it comes to patterns, it really just doesn't get any simpler than what you see here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the line, boom, as soon as it cracks, and you get that alert coming through turbo brakes up. I mean, for me, that's exactly what I look for every day, because once again, the entry bar's here, the past 15 minutes, you have a readily acceptable risk down here, and a lot of the times, as long as you're not chasing and getting them up here, which we all know better than that, you either get them just as they break or you miss them. Now the good news is these patterns are here day in, day out, slow market, fast market, but guess what? unless you're watching the alert windows or the top list windows that are going to put you in the path of this, you're never going to know. It's like driving around without your Google. Like, can you imagine trying to navigate without your Google Maps if you don't know where you are, Andy?
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're so used to it now. We'd all be driving around looking at our maps, running into things, which I guess that's what people did in the quote-unquote olden days. But, we've got, this is our Google Maps right here. This is Google Maps for trading. And, unless you know what to look for, it's like I like to say, well, we could say that wherever the institutions are playing that day, that's kind of where I want to focus my attention, because that's where the party is. That's where the volume is. If the river's flowing and you jump in, you're going to get carried downstream. But if it's not, you're just going to sit there, right? Maybe get bit by some mosquitoes.
Exactly.
So, first and foremost, let's make sure the water's running, and to do that, we've got a lot of cool things within the product to help you do that. Now, volume does not lie, and so if we can focus in on the volume and then apply our chart patterns to only the stocks where the volume is being done, well, that just makes a lot of sense.
All right, Jamie. One question over here. Are the timestamp trades and turbo breaks buy orders only? I'm not familiar with the strategy in module. Well, they're not really. I'll let Jamie explain it. That's just kind of his baby.
Yeah,
so
buy orders only. It has nothing to do with buy orders. All that turbo breaks is telling us, if we look at the configuration, is that it's a stock that's meeting these filter criteria here, and it's hitting a new high, right? That's all turbo breaks up is telling us. The stock's hitting a new high. By the way, it's doing at least 3 times on the 1 minute volume. Now, this is the chart I like to trade, but people are different. There could be different upside patterns that people like to trade. And once again, this is the guy that goes, hey, take a look at this stock. The volume is there, and it's hitting highs. But it's up to me to look at the chart pattern and go, yes, this is the chart pattern that I like to trade, therefore I will initiate a trade in this stock. But, that's all that turbo breaks is telling you. It's hitting a high and it meets these filter requirements.
Yep. Very good stuff, Jamie.
I hope that answers the question.
I think so. Yeah, he said he got it. Yeah, thanks. Well, appreciate it, Jamie. If you want to pass it back to me, and I'll finish this out here with. There we go.
The baton has been passed.
The baton has been passed. Yeah, just like the stock trading goes. All right, guys. Yeah, I told you I have a little bit different layout here to show you, and I'll tell you what I'm working on. I was actually working on some alerts. We're going to be introducing a professional version to go after money managers, hedge funds, brokers, and I was working on some alerts for that may suit them. You probably know there's not a lot of hedge funds and money makers out there that like to play around with $2 and $3 stock. They can be great for day trading. I do it myself. A lot of the alerts that we share in here are looking for that momentum. Stocks that can give you an 80 to 100% move, in just 30 minutes. But it's not for everybody, and not only is it not for money managers, hedge funds, and brokers, but it may not be for a lot of you guys out there who are not looking to play in that realm. Not everybody comes in here and wants to play, low floaters on the move, momentum stocks where you got to jump in and scalp some off in 10 seconds. And not only that, I had a session with a guy yesterday, right when I was working on this, and I had a session with a guy, and he told me, he said, Andy, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm taking control of my 401k. I'm sick and tired of paying all these fees and all these, monthly management fees to pay for, for my 401k, and I can do better than they are, They're just putting it in some index fund, and I'm having to pay these absorbent fees. So I said, well, great. I said, he goes, but I got to be really careful with this because this is money that I want to invest wisely. I said, well, good. So you probably don't want to be jumping in a lot of $1.50 stocks. You probably want to find stocks that are a little more reputable. Stocks that have been around, companies that have been around for a while and will continue to be around. Maybe stocks in the S&P 500, the Qs or the IWM. So, hey, Jamie, would you mind going on mute? Your keyboard is
I
trying to.
apologize,
That's
Andy.
all right, man. Thanks, buddy. Uh, so I started thinking. I said, well, what if I took a lot of these alerts that we got, that we built for these momentum stocks, these ones that we built for $1 range, $1 to $10 range, or $20 range, and let's apply some filters that will show us, stocks that people can look more, that are more dependable for swing trading, for position trading. You got to be careful when you hold some of these, $1.50 stocks overnight. And trust me, I've seen many a trader blow up holding what I refer to as pissant stocks, and waking up, the next day only to find out that they're bankrupt and the stock's down, $1.50, and he held 5,000 shares overnight. So you really have to be careful. So I wanted to share with you today some alerts that I've taken from our Momo scanners, and I've configured, and for you to use in case you want to you maybe do some investing, maybe do some swing trading. That will still show you some very sweet patterns. Will still show you some momentum patterns. It won't be on dollar stocks and $2 stocks. It's going to be more on, like you see in this Alpha Predator is one that I've used. Let me just pull over the Alpha Predator that everybody pretty much uses around here in the, if I can find it. Well, I don't have that one, or do I? There she is. So this is the Alpha Predator that we normally use. And let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at the configuration. Okay, you're looking at a window specific filters. Okay, it only has to be more than 50 cent minimum. So a stock can be traded at 55, 60 cents, and it's going to come through the Alpha Predator. Volume filters, all this other stuff is fine. Volume today is 100,000 shares, so it really doesn't have any kind of minimum on the daily average volume. So that's another red flag if you're looking for stocks to maybe invest in, and because you want to find stocks that are kind of more liquid and trades. Gosh, beeping a lot in my ear over there. So anyway, let's take a look at these stocks. Okay, here's the Alpha Predator on ours. $2, $2, $2, $5. And you get some up here that are going, in the 17.28. That's great. I think you may find a lot of these over here in the one that I configured. But you're going to find a lot of $2 stocks in this as well. As a matter of fact, if I venture to say, I'd say probably more than half of the ones that come through here are below $5. Well, I've taken the Alpha Predator that I'm using for more liquid stocks, and let's just look at the configuration in this one. So you're going to see the same type of pattern setup, as far as the chart pattern goes. But the minimum price is $5. It's not 1 to 20. And here's the kicker, and pretty much I've done this to every one of these alerts. The average daily volume in 3 months has to be doing 500,000 shares a day. Usually that's sign of a liquid stock. You're going to find a stock, that in most cases, if they're doing 500,000 shares a day or more, they're reputable companies. They've been around a while. They, there's volume behind them, so the shares are being exchanged. If they're above $5, you probably have funds involved. Mutual funds cannot buy stocks, under $5. So there's another kind of red flag if you're trading stocks below $5. So let's take a look at here. You're going to see a lot of the same looking setups, on the pattern. They're just going to be more liquid. Actually, TWLO made the appearance there. I'm surprised to see that one in there, but I guess it is made it. So once again, I'm not going to spend too much time on each top list and alert window, because most of you people in here have seen these before. For those of you that haven't, real quickly, this is a top list. There's no event or alert in here. Okay, As long as stock satisfies the filters I just showed you, they're going to appear on this top list, and they're going to refresh every 30 seconds. So as long as stocks maintain the parameters set in my filters, they will appear in this. Now, I did make one change on the alpha predator in the configuration. Since I'm going for a little bit larger price stock, I changed the 5-minute volume to 400, whereas the other one, I'm sorry, from 400 to 300. Because as stocks get more and more liquid and get more and more volume, done, per day, it's harder to see those moves when you get up to 500% volume in a 5-minute. So I'm looking for just at least a 300% increase in 5-minute volume, which is still huge. It's just not up to some of these ones we have for the pissant stocks where they up to 1,000. Okay, so that's alpha predator. Now let's take a look at here. This is that one I showed you the other day where it's pulled back. The stock is pulling back, but it's still above its moving average. I'm loving this this alert right here for swing trading. I'm getting a great response from people who are using it. This one is not too different because if I pull up the configuration in this one, the new one, you're going to see the one that's looking for stocks that are a little more higher priced and more liquid. Once again, the 3-month volume is 500,000. The price is over $5. These other filters are still the same. And forgive me if some of you guys were not here the time we went over these filters. I can save that for another time. I just don't have time to go into all this today. But basically what it's looking for is looking for stocks pulling back on the daily that are trading in the lower end of their 5-day range, and yet they're putting up what's called a setup bar. And this setup bar is the theory behind this strategy is the next day, once you see the setup bar, you buy it when it takes out that high, using the low of the setup bar as you're out. This is the old one. Okay, once again, the configuration in the old one. This is actually, I had this one to 5 because I actually created this for people to swing trade. So there's not a whole lot of difference in here except the average daily volume, and the older one is just 200,000 shares a day, where I've jumped that up to 500,000 shares a day in this one. So not a whole lot of difference there. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the trend change lubricant. You're going to see the same stocks on there we go, come here. So basically I just changed once again, I changed the, let me get this chat box in a way, it's getting in front of all my stuff over here. I changed the average daily volume to 500K and the minimum price to 5. So that's all I really did to this one. And you can see right here on the old trend change lubricant, these two stocks are still in this. And it's just going to leave out the ones, once again, that are trading below $5 and that don't have the appropriate amount of volume. So we're still looking for 500,000 shares. A couple of good stocks. SSYS, maybe one to watch. You know, if you look on the daily here. Maybe trying long-term downtrend, maybe trying to pop up. It's a big level right here, but maybe we're able to watch out for if it gets above today's high. Extreme volume, high, low. Okay, this is the one that, yeah, this is the one right here, the extreme volume, high, low. This is probably the biggest different ones. And you can see there, CSX was coming through this all day. As a matter of fact, if I scroll down here, you're going to see CSX come through this one. You know, pretty actually right there when it kind of broke out of its high from the day is right when it came in. But what I did with this, let's take a look at the configuration in the one that is set for small stocks. Okay, just $1 to $20. So this is looking for lower price stocks. I didn't do anything with the 5-minute volume or the 1,000 or the 1-minute volume. They're still at 300 and 1,000%. Volume today, 300,000. Excuse me, I think that took that out of this one. But on this one, the one, once again, looking for stocks with more liquidity, stocks that have been around a while, a little more safe for swing trading. Average daily volume 3 months, 500,000. And the price, of course, went from minimum of $5, and there is no maximum. So you're going to see larger price stocks in this. So, but you're going to, this once again, this is a multi-strategy. So it's going to show you stocks moving on the downside and stocks moving on the upside. But some interesting stuff in here. And what you can do, I tell everybody when people see these extreme volume filters, they say, well, I'm not looking for stuff just, running real fast, but you can use a lot of these for swing trading. They're moving up for a reason, and a lot of time that reason is a catalyst. When you have this huge amount of volume coming in, 2,000%, over 1,000% in 1 minute volume, over 800% in the 5 minute volume. This is that CSX that Jamie was just showing you. Okay, a lot of times when you see this volume, it's a catalyst and can be the start of something big. So a lot of these can be multi-day holds. So I don't want you to think just because something is a momentum alert that it has to only be used for day trading. Same thing with Alpha Predator. You can find some very good setups for the long term for a 2 or 3 or multi-day, multi-week hold. So with that said, I did change one thing as far as the strategies themselves when it comes to extreme volume configure. And if I go to the configuration here, this is just for the one for the up move, what I did is I position in 10-day range. I want something that's kind of breaking out of a range. In other words, if you're looking to swing trade or to position trade, I don't want to find it in just a kind of a funky range, So I put the minimum in the average daily range, right there, the position in 10-day range. The minimum is 90% off its low. Every range has a range from 0 to 100%. 0 being the low of that range, 100 being the high of that range. So if I put 90% in here as a minimum, basically that's telling the algorithm that I do not want to see it unless it's 90% off its low of this 10-day range. So you'll catch them, possibly before they're breaking out of a 10-day range or right when they're breaking out of a 10-day range. And I did just the opposite for the ones moving down, okay? Extreme short configure. I don't want to see them in the stock just selling off in the upper part of their range. I want to catch them in a vulnerable position. So what I did here, position in 10-day range, I put a max of 10. Okay, so basically what it's saying once again is I do not want to see an alert come through my window that I just created unless it's 10% from going to the low of that range. In other words, it cannot be more than 10% off the low of its 10-day range. So that kind of just added a little. It's kind of a little more of a momentum feature when you do that. And you can play around with this. You can even make them closer. You could change this to 5. You can make it 3. And something that's actually about to take out a 10-day range would be nice. So that's up to your liking there. Okay, so let me get rid of this. One last one I'm going to go over, and this is real quick because Jamie, I just took Jamie's tool right here, and what I've done, it's a turbo breakup, and I've included the SPY 500, the Qs, and the IWM, and you can find these in our symbol list. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the configuration here, and if you go to our symbol list, you're going to see we have some customized a list for you, symbol list for you, that you can choose the Qs, S&P 500, and the IWM. So what you want to do is choose those and then check them. And window-specific alerts. Okay, I'm not looking. I want to see a price above 20. I think actually Jamie had set this when he first created this from 150. I did add a position in 10-day range of at least 75. In other words, I wanted off 75% off its low of the 10-day range, so I'm looking for something that could possibly be going. The 1-minute volume minimum is 300. That's actually what Jamie was using as his. Position in range, I don't want to see this This is a daily range. Anytime you don't see a 10-day, a year, or something in front of this range, it's referring to the intraday range. Okay, so I want to see it at least 75% off its low of the intraday range, so somewhat close to highs. In position in 5-day range, I want to see it 95% off its low. In other words, at least 5% from going through, at least 5% close to going through a 5-day range. So something a little more constructive. I've added a market cap in here of $3 billion and average daily volume of 500,000. So what we're going to do here, and you're going to see a lot of, you see these, look at these, they're all familiar. You got Marriott in here, you got Schlumberger in here. Nice looking chart there, looks like it's trying to break out. And you have it on volume, you know, maybe you want to watch. Once again, you had CSX coming through here. I thought Grub was pretty interesting. But you can see what I'm looking for, trying to break out of a range here. Maybe moving higher. There's nothing really to stop this thing from going to, you know, to another $2.50 really. So take a look at this, guys. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop the whole layout in our chat window. So what you can do, guys, in other words, I can share more than just alerts with you. I can share my whole layout with you. So you can take this layout. Obviously, if you don't have the premium, you're not going to get trade ideas, so you could just close these out and put some other alerts down here if you like, but you're going to get the whole layout. So what I'm going to do is go File. I'm going to go Save or Share to Cloud. I'm going to select Entire Layout. I'm going to name this so you'll know what it is when it comes over. I'm going to name it TI. I call it mine TI Pro, but that sounds too much like the download. Let's call it TI Professional. Let's see, you can name it. You can change the name whatever you want to. So I am going to save and share. And for you guys who are out there kicking the tires, see, this is what you can do this with all your friends as well. You're able to save and share alerts. It's very simple. Here is my TI Professional layout. I'm going to drop it in the chat window, guys. It's on our kind of our toolbar of our GoToMeeting window. So I put TI Professional. It's better if you kind of expand that chat window out so you can see it better. And then I'm going to drop the whole layout in there like this. And what you can do is highlight that, and I'm not highlight it, but click it. And I hope most of you know how to install. It's very easy. You just click it. It's going to pull up a URL page. Just copy that URL and go to Load to Cloud. And then it'll automatically, once you click on Load to Cloud, it'll be in there already. Then all you have to do is hit Load. Now, remind, it's going to change your whole layout, so be careful. But anyway, that's something that you can have, and this is a way I can send everything over here to you at once. And the way you can use this, I mean, if you're a momentum trader, you want to wake up in the morning and stick with your regular alerts, you can do that, and maybe play around for a couple of hours, and maybe pull up this layout and look at for things with a bigger market cap. Things that you might want to invest in, something that you might want to take a swing position trade on, and take it from there. So I think you can benefit this, and then you can take it and play around with it and do more with the alerts, add more filters, and customize it to fit you. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to bring, while you guys are copying that URL, I am going to bring Scott in here. But before I do, I kind of want to let you know more about what we have to offer than just our software here at Trade Ideas. So bear with me while I get a drink of water.
No water.
All right, guys. We're so much more. We're so much more than just a software company, guys. We are more of a support and education. We have some great alerts, but we also know that they can be daunting at times. They're very powerful. They can be overwhelming. So we just don't sell you a product and just leave you out there, fending for yourselves. We have incredible support and education here. We have our daily trading room that's open 7 hours a day, where you can come in there and watch a professional trader trade using our software in trading his own money, calling out his trades, give you the logic and reasoning of why he's taking the trade, what alert he may be looking at and found it on. There's almost 600 traders in there. It's free to everybody. It's just a great forum to, especially for new traders, to really learn how to trade. And then we have webinars throughout the week. I'm not going to go through each one of them. You guys can see them there. They're at the same time, 5 Eastern, Monday through Thursday. We do take Friday off because we're exhausted by then. But we don't stop there. When you do sign up for Trade Ideas, you get a one-on-one hour of power training with either me, Jamie, or Steve. All professional traders and all that know the product very, very well. All of us one of the very first users of the product. This is a $99 value. You get it free when you sign up with either package at Trade Ideas. So with that said, what I'm going to do is bring Scott in here and see if he has something for you this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Scott, would you like to come on in?
Yeah, sure. Can you do us a favor and drop that cloud link in the chat again? You either missed clicking send or there's something up with the chat window because I don't see it either. We got a couple guys asking you for it.
Oh, really? Okay, let me try it again.
Might have just missed hitting enter or the send button after. So give that a shot. Also, if you could, I think you were showing the presentation on your screen a moment ago, but we're back on your layout. Pop that back up after you've checked that link when I'm talking about the special and stuff. But while you're doing
you don't
that,
see my.
No, I'm
you don't see the.
looking at your save to cloud window.
Wow.
On your
Okay,
layout.
that's not what I'm looking at here. There's something maybe wrong with our.
I see the links in the chat window.
Huh, I don't see it in mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not getting stuff updated.
Hey, guys, are you seeing?
Type into the
Are you guys
chat.
seeing the Trade Ideas? Susie, are you seeing? Okay, they're all seeing it.
Yeah, you're looking in chat and not questions, correct?
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat. I don't know if it's just some of us or that's interesting. Go ahead and Skype it to me. I'll make sure I put it in the notes for the video replay, and that way at least you can have it that way. Or they can just email us at info@trade-ideas.com if it's not showing up. What I'm going to try doing is switching to share my screen. Just to show this because I don't know if we're seeing. There we go. Okay. So now you should be seeing that slide, the subscribe slide.
Yep.
Did we see the subscribe slide now?
We do.
All right, excellent.
Correct.
So yeah, you all can also check for the handouts folder. Go to the handouts panel in your GoToWebinar interface and click on the little plus next to that, and there's a PDF in there you can download. So you can just go ahead and do that while I'm talking. That just contains this slide and some other additional information, including information about the open house, which we just started to announce today. But if you go to trade-ideas.com/price and use the code JUMPSTART, the way you see it there, all caps, that'll take 15% off your first month or year of premium or 10% off your first month or year of standard. And that's either way is a great way to get started with Trade Ideas because both include a full hour of one-on-one training with either Jamie, Andy, or Steve. As soon as you become a subscriber, just go to the support section, click on training, and then we make it really easy for you to pick the best time and date and your trainer of preference if you have a preference. A lot of people ask us why we don't have a trial, but we're doing that periodically during the year. If you go to trade-ideas.com/open house, you can register for a 5-day open house preview, which lets you access our premium features without becoming a subscriber. And that's going to run from the 6th to the 10th. So what you want to do is sign up before the 6th of February, and you get the full week, 5 days of access. And there is a nominal cost of $8.88, and basically that just covers our exchange fees. Every time we supply real-time data to subscribers, we have to pay the exchanges. And it also lets us know that you're serious about giving it a try. We did an absolutely free one last year for the first time that we did an open house, and we found that by charging a little amount, it actually encourages everyone to participate in that week and pay attention and get the most out of it. And we got a really great response, and everyone loved it. So we're doing it again in February, and it's going to end right before Valentine's Day. So fall in love with Holly this Valentine's by trying our open house, trade-ideas.com/open house. If you're interested in trying out the full Monty of trade ideas, including our AI, getting access to all of that, it is an outstanding opportunity to try it out. And so please do that. If you want,
you want to show that that open house slide that you have there, Scott? They're not seeing that, I don't think, unless running slow.
Okay. Well, that's available in the handout. I think there's something up with
okay.
GoToWebinar seems to be having some kind of weird updating issue today because
okay.
I'm still not seeing that cloud link in the chat. And
okay.
I wasn't seeing your slides either. But if anyone has any questions or anything, you can email us info@trade-ideas.com. That goes directly into our help desk and then is routed to the appropriate team member. So that's the best place to send technical questions. Our phone number is a great place to call if you have any billing questions during normal business hours. It's primarily not for answering trading questions, but for assistance with your subscriptions. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is where to find us on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook and like us there, you get some additional content. We don't post other places, so it's a good thing to do. You can follow Jamie on Twitter at QuantBot. You can follow Steve Gomez at TodayTrader. And, of course, Dan Merkin is TradeIdeas1. Thanks, everyone, for attending. We'll get a recording of this up before too late tonight. You'll see it tomorrow. You get an email to your email address you used to register. And we hope to see all of you that aren't yet subscribers in the open house. The open house is also available to those of you on standard subscriptions, by the way. If you're on standard, want to try out premium for under $9, you can just try it out for a full week and go to the trading room every day of that week, go to our webinars, and learn how Holly is kind of changing really changing the face or putting a fresh face on trading and investing. All right, thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Andy. We'll get this in the can.
Thanks, Scott.
Get the recording up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.